Hi, everyone. Putting out a quick video just to let you know that Kiwi Joe came out with part two, where he discusses the remote viewing that he had and how his sketches relate to our solution. I'm going to put a link to it below, and you want to check it out. It's really good. This is the part that you're going to want to see. And I also just want to show you a couple of pictures and things just to remind you prior to you looking at that to certain things about our solution. And let me show you them. So the first thing I want to show you is just to kind of give you a better idea because Kiwi Joe is not using Google Earth Pro. So I'm not sure if he do this to really show you the perspective of how things look. But here we are above the wheel, and the medicine wheel is over here. Okay, here's the driveway that leads up there that you park over here, and then you hike to the wheel. And I'm not going to go over all this, but this is all our solution. This is the D cairn, which points to the basin, which is where warm water salt. And this is the solstice sunrise. We're looking away from it. And this is what goes down over to the intersection that you're supposed to take when you leave the wheel, and then you follow it down here along Medicine Wheel Pass, and then you come up and go to the campsite. Now, in Joe's video, he's going to show you what looks like a 7, and he's calling it his blaze. That's it right here, okay? And if you'll notice, the sun crosses right over that, okay? And then it intersects the creek, which is where we leave the trail to go to campsite number 9, which is where the treasure chest is. So I just want to give you perspective of that, where we are. Here's the Bighorn Lake and the Bighorn Reservoir, and then Lovell is over here. So if I rotate everything and then I go down, you can get a good idea of what the terrain would look like here, okay? This blue line is the creek that we're going up. Here's where the spot is. And if you look, you can see the mountain peaks that he's discussing and how we go right in the canyon. And this is where the treasure chest is again. And if you look at the mountain peaks that he drew, you could see them clearly up here, which is where the wheel are. Okay. This is Medicine Mountain Peak. All right. Just to give you a perspective of where we are. And this is the canyon. And this is the sun line that's coming down from the solstice sunset. So you would be down in here, and there's that 7. You can't see it from this angle, but that's the way everything looks in here. I can go over by level and give you another perspective of it. Okay, this is, again is where the canyon is. The canyon goes up in here. You can see it if I come around this way a little bit. Okay, that's where the treasure chest is. When you're at the intersection down there where you turn up to the campsite, these are the signs that you're going to see. And there's also another sign that would say, go this way to go to the wheel. And if you want to go to the campground, this is where that road is that leads up into the canyon. When you're hiking along that trail, if you were to continue to go this way, this is that warning sign about heavy loads and water high. This is where you would go to see the falls. This is the trail that leads to where the treasure chest is. The sun comes right down and it crosses over campsite number 9, which is right in here. This is the point that you would exit the trail and you would go to the campsite. This is another shot of that trail as you would walk down that path. Here's the number 9. Here's a picnic table. And over here, there's a fire pit. On this side is where you would put your tent. This is a close-up shot again. Here's our trees. There's 2 trees shaped like a double omega. If you look down through there, down in this direction, on the opposite side of the creek, about 40 feet away from here, is where the nook is. This is a distance shot of that nook, and this is taken from probably about 20 feet away. We went down the hill. Here's the creek, and you can see Justin inside of there. This is another tree that grew in the shape of an omega, and the omega is busted. One of the arms is broken off of it. But you can see if you were to look straight down from the sky through that omega that's laying on its side, the treasure chest is right in here. you would see the top of the treasure chest. This whole area, now he cut it away, but you see all these trees over here? That's all the red that Joe's talking about. All of this is covered with trees. You could walk right by this and you wouldn't see in there. The only person that would think to look in there would be a searcher. This is a crevice cut out. There's no water that comes in this direction. And right over here and off to your left, you can't see it, there's a rock slide. So this is a steep cliff over here. This is the edge of that cliff. And there's a nook cut out in here with a tree over it. The treasure chest was right in there. This is kind of what you would see if you were looking down from above, okay, through the omega that's laying on its side. Now, there's rocks and stuff that are thrown in here by Jack or whoever got the treasure chest. They tried to cover the tracks. But the treasure chest was right in here. And it was exposed, okay? It was covered by this dogwood, red-osier dogwood is what it's called. And this was all covered. You can see it now because Justin cut all of it back. But in the search season, all of this is red, okay? And this tree itself, the diameter is probably like, I don't know, 20 inches. It's big. And the tree grew on its side in the shape of an omega. You can see it, this nook, if you know what you're looking for, from the campsite. Then you would have to leave the campsite. There's no human trails on this side. You would walk down, you would ford the creek, and the creek is like right over down here. Okay, so it's a little bit muddy in there. Now I'm just going to show you two pictures of what it looked like. He took out some of the rocks that somebody threw in, whoever took the chest, but this is like kind of zoomed in, and that's what the nook looked like when somebody filled it in. He revealed the square area that is underneath here by removing all of these rocks. This is before he took the rocks out. There was a little gap in here. And of course, we don't know the way it originally looked. There was probably another blaze here, but Jack or whoever retrieved the chest removed it. And there's another picture of the nook, as you can see. So somebody filled this in with all these rocks they threw in. But you could see a square pattern here. That's where the treasure chest was. And like I said, it's obscured by the roseate dogwood. The only reason why you would see it is because you would know to look through the omega as a searcher, and this would be about 40 feet away. And as I said, there was probably another blaze here or some kind of a stone marker. It's impossible to know because the site's been disturbed. But that's what the nook looks like if you were to go underneath that tree and stand below the omega and look down. And as I said, Justin removed a lot of these rocks, and you can see a square area in the shape, if you look at the other image, from looking top down to where the treasure chest was. This is about, like I said, 40 feet away from campsite number 9, and it's on the south side of the creek, right along the edge of the mountain. So now, anyway, that's all I really have to say. I want you to check out Kiwi Joe's video. It's excellent. He did an excellent job. And you're going to see, I mean, it amazed me. And you're going to see how amazing it is. Now, remember, he drew that 2 years before we even put the solution out. Justin and his wife told me to take a look at Joe's book, and they said, look at the similarity to it. So that's why I got in touch with Joe, and that's what happened. Joe was not a searcher, and Joe and I were never teamed up. I just pointed this out to him, and he agreed with me, and then I convinced him to do a video about it himself. I don't believe he ever searched for the chest. He did have a client that had him do a remote viewing, and then Joe went on to get his client's permission, and Joe wrote a few books of it and made some sketches. That's what he has in his video, and those sketches are strikingly similar to what we have here. I mean, I'm convinced without a doubt that this solution is right. I sent the information to Jack. I sent it to the attorney. I sent it to Shiloh. I sent it to Zoe. They're all well aware of it. Nobody's saying anything about it. And Jack, just incidentally, has not responded to me in about 6 months. So I honestly don't believe that Jack's going to say anything, because The only way Jack can refute this is by telling us the real solution. Okay. But I'm sure that this is the way to poem. The poem first says you find the starting location, which is the wheel, and then you use the poem at the wheel, and it leads you right down precisely to this spot. I believe that when Jack was talking about a broken blaze, either he was talking about this tree or he was talking, if you look back at my older videos, there's another blaze that a searcher destroyed, but it's nowhere near this treasure. I believe that was a disgruntled searcher who did not find a chest, and they thought they were destroying a blaze. Or maybe Jack destroyed it himself. I don't know. But I believe that that's what Jack gave up. And then he essentially went to Yellowstone or wherever he went. And then he realized, hey, wait a minute, that saw back at the wheel is right. And he went back there and he figured out the sun. And essentially, he beat us there by a couple of days. So congratulations to Jack. But for those of you who want a closer, this is the closer. This is where it is. And Jack got that information by doing the try to wheel stuff that we put out there back in 2016. I know it. And that's likely why they would rather say nothing. Even though we don't have a leg to stand on, we put that information out there in the public and anybody was able to use it. So Jack didn't do any wrong if he looked at our videos about try the wheel. But what that did is it did 99% of the work for him. And I basically think he spent 25 days on and off, boots on the ground, which is a brute force method to solve the ending. I don't believe he really knew how to use the wheel to get down to this point. But even if you disregard all of that, it seems now, hindsight's 2020, that it's obvious that it had to be Five Springs. It's plural. Everything shares the same name. You got Five Springs Basin, which is where Five Springs form Five Springs Creek. Five Spring Creek then goes down into Five Springs Canyon, which then goes over Five Springs Falls. Then it goes through Five Springs Campsite. Then it goes right down to the intersection of the road that leads to the Medicine Wheel and the Five Springs Campground Road. Right after it crosses over that, it goes into Rainbow Canyon. So that would be the end of the rainbow right there. So basically, the sun tells you where to go. This is identical to the story of where they're looking for Lewis and Clark. They followed the creek down, and in this example, they would have followed it down to the waterfalls. They reached a point where they can go no farther. Only the water can go through. Okay? So they had to turn back and find a Forest Service road to come out and get down to their ultimate destination, which was the campsite. Because you could see the campsite from up at the top of the falls. And like he says in the story, we could see our destination, but only the water could go through at this point. So they had to turn back. And the other thing, if you read that story where he says that he used mountain man wisdom, he looked to the sunrise, he knew that that was east. Well, right there, he's describing looking at the solstice sunrise. And then they found the nearest fast moving creek, and they followed it away from the sun. They couldn't go to the south because that's where the tallest mountain was. And in our case, that would be Medicine Mountain Peak. So they followed the creek down. They couldn't go any further when it hit the falls. So they backtracked and they took the Forest Service road out and they made it to the campsite. And that's the way the poem has you get there. So anyway, folks, check it out. I hope you all have a great week and peace.